My name's Talia Jane. I'm an independent reporter, and I kind of broke most of the story around the self-immolation protest of U.S. Air Force Airman Aaron Bushnell in Washington, D.C. outside the Israeli embassy on Sunday.
How did you first come across the video?
I had come across early reporting saying that a person had attempted to set themselves on fire outside the embassy, and that was around 2:30 p.m. So that would have been about an hour after, maybe longer after he had done it. And I just, quote tweeted that with, it seems like this happened. There was another thing that happened in December in Atlanta, Georgia that we don't have any information about aside from the location and the gender of the person that did it. And then I followed that with, a general context about self-immolation is an extreme form of protest. Like it's this thing where you're willing to give your life for this greater cause. And then after I posted about that, I received a DM from another reporter whose outlet had received the Twitch link to the channel. And he sent it to me and he said, here's the video. We haven't posted it yet. We don't, and I talked to one of his other colleagues and they were sort of trying to figure out how best to go around about it. I watched the video and it became immediately clear that the emerging news reports that were coming out, the statements that were coming out, were deeply underplaying what had happened by a lot. And so I decided to publish, a still from the video that confirms that it happened, and that it was, a full immolative act, just to kind of make it clear that, this occurred and the reason why, which was for Free Palestine, no longer want to be complicit in genocide. When I was contacted, it was by Aaron's friends, and they were very clear that his parents were not, they had been notified, but in terms of staying in the loop or anything like that, they were just not being responsive, and that his brother was partially responsive to things, and they were in contact with him. I reached out to his brother verifying who he is, but I wasn't able to actually have a conversation with him about anything, and I didn't really want to push because it's such a sensitive, very intense thing. His friends reached out to me wanting to advocate for the quality of person that he is, or was. At the time, he was still alive, and they said that he was incredibly principled, he was incredibly sweet and gentle and kind to people, that he had an aptitude for turning a conversation that might focus on abstracts and sort of shift it towards how do we manifest this into actionable goals and make the things that we want to see a reality. And that was a lot of the focus that he had that permeated a lot of his movement work with the unhoused population in San Antonio, and then later in Akron, Ohio.
I also want to ask about the media's coverage of what happened and how they, some of them said that they were calling it a mental illness, but he's an active Air Force member, so it can't be both, where he's an active Air Force member, which you get tested for psychological evaluation, but then they're saying that he's mentally ill or whatever they said. Just talk about that a little bit.
Personally, I think any sort of decision making that's happening about his mental health is happening in favor of a narrative to try and dismiss what happened, to minimize the impact of it, to delegitimize it. It's very easy to see something that you need to ideologically disagree with and to say, oh, that person's just crazy. They're out of their mind, they're crazy, and otherize them as a way of keeping them putting them in sort of a marginalized position. In terms of media coverage, it has been really soft shoe, a lot of, a man allegedly set himself on fire, and no real mention as to the why. And apparently, some reporters at outlets that I spoke with, one reporter said to me that it was because I was the only source of the information. Meanwhile, I was disseminating, like I was sharing the video and screenshots and everything I could think of to other outlets so they could verify it. So they had that source, like that core information. And I was very upfront about that, and I was very transparent. I had, people in his circles that I was in contact with, people in Texas and in Ohio that I was speaking with. And, I had all these things, and I wasn't just making it up. And then the DC Metro Police were not responsive to any media requests for like a full day. The Metro PD didn't report confirming his name or his age or anything like that until after he had died, and then the following day. He died at like 9 p.m. Sunday night, and they didn't have anything confirmed until the next day. So that was like at least 12 hours after I reported that he had died. I had reported that he had died. And it was because of this concept of, this is the only source of the information. It's not verified, so we're not going to run any of it. And I just kind of have to wonder, why would I lie? If I am an independent reporter whose entire job banks on my integrity and my truthfulness and my accuracy, why would I lie? Especially with something generating so much attention, and especially with the amount of transparency that I exercise throughout the entire process. Why would I lie? How does that benefit me? That would ruin my career, right? And instead, it was just like beat for beat, everything I reported out was verified, and then they felt comfortable. And I think, like, what does that say about the health of our media ecosystem, that information is not true unless the cops say it is, and that things didn't happen unless the cops confirm that it happened? And what does that say about the circumstances that led to what Aaron did? If you are feeling silence and that no one is hearing you, and that when you speak up, people are telling you that you aren't allowed to speak, or that you're just crazy, and that repeats over and over and over again, when you know the truth of what's happening and you're speaking on that, the truth of just mass death, absent any political angle, and you speak out on that, after a while, people get more desperate, and it becomes this pressure valve, and it is really serious. This is not only an act of desperation to see to an end to what's happening in Palestine. It is additionally an act of desperation to see to an end what's happening in the media that is suppressing our access to knowledge and information in a honest and, a modern understanding of what neutrality and bias and accuracy in reporting and context are. Like, I think the media coverage that we've seen has been extremely informative for people, especially when you compare what Aaron did to what happened in December, where we have no information, because that person did not preemptively email out a Twitch channel link to members of the press, and they didn't live stream it. So we have no idea who it is. We have no idea what happened. We have no idea if they were successful or if they were not. No idea. We have no idea if it was someone who had, they were there for Palestine. We can assume that. But it could also have been something else, and we don't know. And I think that should terrify us because of this sort of reliance on according to authorities, according to cops. When is it not enough that, like, our own experiences and the things that we see and experience plainly and straightforward, when will that be enough as a source? I did not expect, by any length of the imagination, that I would be the one kind of leading on doing this work. I'm just a single individual person. I don't have institutional support. I don't have editors that I can go to. And I ended up kind of taking on the ethical obligations of carrying the story forward as fully as possible and as with as much integrity as possible to both the story and my own ethos around reporting. Reaching out to Aaron's loved ones was surprisingly, he was estranged from his parents, so they were not responsive to anything. But the people who he had formed community with, talking to them was almost affirming for both of us, as someone who witnessed the video and had to process it and report it out, as well as his closest friends who are grappling with this sudden tragic news about their friend, and being able to speak with them and hear about Aaron from them and create a space for them that was safe and comfortable was really empowering, I think, for both of us, or all three of us, the people that I spoke with. But it was still this collective heartbreak. And after reporting the story out and reporting that he had died, I then saw that collective heartbreak explode across the internet. It was everywhere. Everyone who is for liberatory causes was expressing condolences, was processing like heartbreak and grief at the loss of this 25-year-old, very radical, very principled person for this greater cause. It's been, I said earlier today, I feel sort of like a shoe that just fell out of a dryer, or like one of the cows from the tornado in the movie Twister. It's just, there's so many levels to this, in terms of both the act that he did, the response that it's had, my unintentional role in all of this, just trying to disseminate newsworthy information out to the public. It's been a lot.
Do you see other members of the armed forces serving coming out and speaking out? Do you think this inspired people to do that?
Well, I mean, we have a long history in this country of whistleblowers in the armed forces. People who are provided a job in service of the country, and then the work that they're doing is not in alignment with the purported values that they joined in for. They recognize wrongdoing when it's happening, and they speak out. It is not necessarily this way, but it is. We do see whistleblowers. Chelsea Manning. I think Edward Snowden. This happens, and I think that with this, I can't predict if there will be more whistleblowers or more people speaking out from the armed forces. I hope that there are no more self-immolations, specifically because it was extremely difficult to report on. And I think I did okay. I hope I did okay, but it's really extreme, and I genuinely hope that people aren't seeing it. I don't think that they are. I don't think that people are seeing what he did and interpreting it to mean, oh, I should do that. Right. A lot of people are seeing it and they feel like a loss to their larger community. The process of reporting on this situation, the only way that I think it was possible for me to do was because I had other indie reporters that I could reach out to who could empathize with what I was, processing and how I was working on things, and, knew that I was doing my best and were kind of cheering me on in that. And I think that in the media industry, it's very cutthroat and very dog-eat-dog, and it doesn't need to be. Because I was able to bring this story to its fullness by having other people in this industry who were genuinely there for me, not trying to, snipe sources or anything like that. And that is going to be the future as these corporate media institutions crumble. We're going to have to help each other out a lot more.